everyone, this is Akafa12, and today I am joined by a co-host. He's kind of grumpy because I've already done this once before on my previous video. Come here. But Rogelio, who you may have seen in my community announcements, is joining me today. He doesn't mind being picked up initially, but he's kind of sleepy right now. I just want you guys to know if I start squirming around or whatnot, that's why. And there might be a point where like he hops up on my my shoulders or something like that. But I think he's trying to take a nap, so I'm going to leave him as he is. Today we are going to be reacting to a song that came out a week ago. This is the Leaders of History rap cypher by Rustage, featuring a whole bunch of different people, including the Stipendium, Keyblade, he's appeared on Rustage's song before. Top Hamhat Kyo, I think that's the name. Top Hamhat Kyo, and others. Since this is a Leaders of History cipher, and we see that there is there's a Japanese samurai general here, I would not be surprised if Top Hamhat Kyo is probably going to be playing the samurai general, whoever that happens to be. There are a couple people that could be. I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, we've got George Washington here, Julius Caesar. I'm gonna say Ramses for the Egyptian, and then Napoleon. But I'm not 100% sure about him. So like I'm kind of curious as to who all is going to be on this cipher. This is a 10-minute and 42-second long cipher, so expect this video to go pretty long. Link will be in the description below if you don't want to watch this without my commentary. It should be if you want to watch this without my commentary, because we'll be pausing and we'll be talking about it. Also down below is a link to my Patreon, where we'll find longer form reaction videos, much like this one, but for anime and TV shows, such as Dragon Ball Daima Episode 4, which will be going live most likely tomorrow, the 29th. So keep an eye out for that. And without further ado, let's get started. Also, I'm going to do one thing real quick, because this is a ultra wide video and I happen to have an ultra wide screen and I don't want you guys to miss out on anything. So there we go. Yeah. Hold on. I just realized that was the credits. That's a lot of people. So Rustage is Caesar. That was right. Ramses. Little Flex is Ramses II. Mix Williams, Cyrus the Great. The man be his law is Alexander the Great. Honora VT is Seondeok. Hala CG, who is a name that I really need to start reacting to again. I've had several requests, and I apologize I haven't gotten to it yet. Is playing Wu Zetian. Top Hamhat Kyo is Tokugawa. Okay, so it's Tokugawa. That makes sense. Okay. There was, like I said, there was a few different individuals that Top could have been playing, but I wasn't 100% sure. We got Genghis Khan by Connor Quest. Schwabity is Alfred the Great. Dan Bull is Harold Bluetooth. That's one I haven't heard before, so interesting. Stipendium is Charlemagne. Awesome. That actually makes me really happy that Charlemagne got put into this. Dix is Chandragupta? Chandragupta? Not familiar with that one. Samad Savage is Mansa Musa. Shoutao is Shaka Zulu. McGuire is Suleiman. Lex Bratcher is Catherine the Great. Keyblade is Philip II. Kyoto is Moctezuma II. Louverture is Napoleon, and Dripstick is George Washington. I'm going to be honest, I'm surprised that Joan of Arc isn't on here. But, you know, this is already a really long cipher, so maybe there might be a part 2 or some point.
Yeah. They see my legionnaires and my eagles bear on my flyer. Go ask my captors, say a price, I gon' tell them higher. My name in monster titles, no, I'm the man they admire. I gone forge the flames of empires. Don't wanna fuck with a Caesar, big leader. Res Republic, current console and speaker. Colosseum, cause I'm deciding fates are doing center stage, but they all stuck in the bleachers. Hate your teachers, so go learn some etiquette. They play like Shakespeare, heavy verse and rhetoric. A puppet talking till he hurt his head. A bit a king to a slave, like they verse and get a Rick. Never did it easy, I've been coming into battle like it's Venevidivision. Bella on the commentary, I got records written neatly. Got the money like a crisis hit in London to the masses. They can call me a dictator, cause the sinner getting needy. Even better when you see me leaving session like I see these other members of the consonant are getting it like maybe hitting Cleo down on Egypt in my bella never titty. And like guys back in BC.
Okay, so Rustage started this. Everybody else is going to have to follow that. Every single individual person, and I'm sure they probably can. I'm fairly certain that they're perfectly capable of doing so, but every single person has to follow that. Wow. Okay, that set a bar like incredibly high. Holy crap. Rustage's part, like, there were so many bars that flew over my head there, but I caught a few, like the Cleo bar. I obviously referencing the Cleopatra. There's a few in there that were really hard hitting, a few that I didn't quite catch, and a few that like I feel like I caught, but I'll have to re-listen to truly understand it, because Rustage speaks so fast sometimes it's just baffles me. He's like British Eminem sometimes. Little Flex. I don't think I've heard Little Flex on any track, so this is going to be a first-time introduction to him as Ramses II.
I was out flat caught by the rank forces of a mad horde, and I still left every man more stamped on than the passport for my rap corpse. Now my back sore, and my body aches, cause I'm soon to hit 90, and you and my hundreds of wives are invited to buy that I might have just landed them now with how long I reign. Hence the front I made for the betterment of Egypt. Every enemy that threatened me is said to be defeated. With tally, you can tally if you're dead. Here is only dead, but that's on a man. I swear that's happened, cause I said it. It's not to amateurs, as long as grand, you put them on your pantheon. Aussie man, your solely stands at the fucking rye. You'll never cook as hard as Gordon Ramsay's got to
that was a very clever connection between Ramses II and Gordon Ramsay. I actually like the wordplay for that. The style that Little Flex decided to bring to this was interesting. I was not expecting it, but then again, I didn't know what to expect. It was the first time I've ever heard him on a track. But the way that he decided to approach Ramses felt very regal. It felt like something you'd expect from a pharaoh to actually, like, if the pharaoh knew how to spit bars, then that's what it felt like. I like the way the instrumental changed, and I also like the fact that they connected Ramses, the Egyptian ruler, immediately after Caesar, since Caesar, like, a good decent part of his story happens to revolve around like his history with Egypt. So I like the fact that they followed Caesar with Ramses II. The instrumental switch, I wonder if that's going to be something that's going to be present for a grand majority of these different, like, rulers, if every single one is going to have a little bit of a change in the instrumental based on the region those people happen to be on, or be from, excuse me. And the other thing that, like, kind of made me think of something right now is I am surprised, considering how into One Piece and pirates that Rustage is. I'm surprised he hasn't done a cipher like this for, like, famous pirates or famous outlaws. That would include pirates. Like, I'm genuinely surprised that he hasn't chosen to do a cipher about pirates or outlaws, because that feels like it should be something that is a given with Rustage. But maybe it's coming. Maybe this is, like, you know, getting people interested in that kind of thing, because I know Rustage for a while was doing like mythic characters, gods, different pantheons, and then he had his own, like, personal songs that some of them were based on pantheon styles, such as, you know, his song Kami. So maybe there's going to be something like that in the future where like we're going to get some pirate songs and as like historical pirate songs, because Rustage seems to be really big into doing the history and mythology stuff right now, which is awesome because that's a type of nerdcore you don't see very often is history nerdcore. So I'm kind of ecstatic that he's decided to do that. But I'm kind of curious as to whether a pirate themed cipher or some pirate songs based on famous pirates is coming in the future.
King of Kings, step in this bitch. I done conquered Lydia, Egypt and shit. I heard y'all was.
Hold on. Who is this? Cyrus the Great? Is that was this is?
Got your mouth when the king.
Yeah. Okay. So Mix Williams and Cyrus the Great.
King, step in this bitch. I done conquered Lydia, Egypt and shit. I heard y'all was talking, y'all babble on and on. Call your army, let's get this shit. I pull up to your border and cause a disturbance. They shaking, I'm making them nervous. Really the greatest, my servants they worship. I can't get no blood on this shirt, man. It's Persian. I can conquer your bitch, that's for certain. Top 5, I'm getting them vote. My drip so deep, my fits on fleek, my flow like water. I see my name, don't make me reach. Stop getting so close, they all rejoice just to look upon me. Get on your knees, it's CTG 600 BC, still an OG. Like what?
I like how he decided to approach that. The section in the middle with the about the moat that was so smooth. The accents and the emphasis that he put on some of those words, just it felt like a hammer hammering those syllables in every single time he spoke. That was really good. Mix Williams has a talent for being able to like make an impression just with a couple of words, and he made an impression here. I really thought that the things that I felt like the way he was approaching the topic of Cyrus the Great felt almost like a history teacher was just giving you like the bare bones this is what this guy is about sort of structure. And I felt like that with Rustage as well. Little Flex kind of felt like that, but not really. But I feel like that's the way you kind of have to go with talking about like historical figures, is you kind of have to like basically give a book report in 8 to 16 bars. So you can show, yeah, this is what this guy's about. This is the energy he brought to the table. And this is, for lack of a better term, this is the aura that he presented. So I really thought that Mix brought that aura. Mix managed to take this topic, this character, this person from history and bring him to life through the rap.
Greatest make way for us and make way or pain in the name 6 sentiment leaving no true rain that is safe for them. Made a layways, take him and pay great benefit, brain and DA committed. I commit the campaigns, the naysayers, clip the frame, shimmer the mains, glistening, clipping the quiver it baits. I mean, it's a cutting close, facing a low trip of fade difference. Pain driven made, here to stay feeling, they get in my way, fatally slaying my name in it. See the KDA, changing the game and no gains given. Your face with the greatest, the day I stay winning. His dad is a claim dependent on my survival. Conquest, baby, stand ready for my arrival. Concept and principle, I'm just invincible. You're gonna fit in my title.
I felt like there could have been more to be said about Alexander the Great. The man be his law is a really, really, really solid rapper. And I felt like the bars he was saying, the way he was saying them, were spot on. But I felt like there was something else that could have been said about Alexander the Great. I don't know what specifically, but I just felt like that could have used a little bit more. Alexander the Great was one of the greatest conquerors in all of ancient history. Like, his empire spanned, like, I think it was one of the 4 like largest empires in historical Europe and Asia. So I felt like there was something more that could have been said about a man who literally made that big of an impression on Europe and Asia. And I felt like there was a bit of a missed opportunity there. What was said was great. I just felt like there was something else that could have been added that would have made it go from like great to spectacular. It didn't quite impress me as much as the previous 3, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. But one of the things I will say is, as I was wrapping that up, thinking about Alexander the Great, one of the things that I was thinking was, there could be a spot for Leonidas in here, King Leonidas I. But then I realized this is about world leaders. So that probably is why Joan of Arc wasn't featured in this, because like, this isn't about generals. This is about world leaders. There's a difference. I mean, sometimes there's not, but in this case, there is. For the context of this song, there is. So I feel like if they're going to do like a strategic generals or famous historical generals sort of rap in the future, like Joan of Arc and Leonidas would feature in that. But after I thought about it while Alexander's part was going on, I realized doesn't quite fit the motif of this rap. So that's probably why they're not there. All right, so now we've got Nora VT as Seondeok.
Make way for the wise and generous. Switching minds at the stuck on a pendulum. Hate a woman so much the planet set me up. Love a queen so much I make it like a bust. Like a cheap queen. To the yellow woman to the death. They don't know that they need me now. 편들과 유성을 볼 수 있게 정상된 내가 만들었지 나. 가른을 거치지가 하는 테마. Like the foundation of a unified combat. 신라유지 17대 손아독.
I want to say that's Chinese. I'm not 100% sure. Hold on. Let me, Rogelio, I need my phone. You're laying on my phone. Come here. There we go. Cilia. Korean. Okay, she's one of the three kingdoms of Korea. Okay. So it's not Chinese, it's Korean. Got it. Understood. So, yeah, awesome. All right, so Seondeok is from Korea. I thought that it may have been Chinese. Some of the words sounded almost Chinese, but I don't recognize Chinese from Korean, so I apologize for that. That's my ignorance showing. So I am actively learning about some of these characters, some of these historical characters. So yeah, so Korean. Interesting. Okay. That would explain why I've never heard of it, because I don't know much about Korean history and folklore and whatnot. I don't know much about like their kingdoms back then. Like China and Japan are typically the ones that are most focused on when it comes to like video games or novelizations or stuff like that. So at least in the ones that make it over to the United States. So I don't know much about how Korean history worked out. So that would explain why I didn't recognize this character. Okay, before we get to Hales, who is, I want to say this is most likely going to be Chinese. Since I don't speak Korean, I can't really judge how Anora like came off. I can't really judge the bars that Nora said, but I can judge the emphasis in which she said them. And what I can tell you right now is the way that she came out with this, the way that like she came out, the confidence, the almost arrogance, the decision to approach things in a way that made you feel like she was practically a god. Even if you couldn't understand what she was saying, you understood the context in which it was being said. It was very impressive, and I felt like it fit very well with the choice, the various choices of the English words that she did say. I wish I understood what she said in Korean. Maybe there's a way for that to get translated. If anybody speaks Korean and can put it in my comments below, I would appreciate that. But as it stands right now, that was a very solid presentation for the character. But unfortunately, I can't really say much more than that because I don't know everything that was said. And I suck at second languages and translations, so yeah.
Ruthless, and I had to be. men are impressive, have them try it as ladies. When I took over the court, then I took over the country. China grew, Egon boom, but they judge me as cruel. We're ready for the fist I rule with prejudice, get of this new movement. Watch out, crown myself now, so bow down on your knees. I've seized my dynasty.
I just noticed that some of the words that Hala said were translated. So maybe I'll have to go back into Anora's part and see if the Korean was translated too, because although she only spoke a few lines of, I believe that was Chinese, they still popped up on the screen with the English translations, and maybe I just didn't notice it with Anora's. I'm not sure, but if I didn't, that's on me for being too wrapped up in listening and not enough in keeping an eye on the visuals. Hala did a really good job, as she always does. She's so impressive when it comes to like trying to bring forth an element of like arrogance and cockiness to things. So I feel like she managed to capture that pretty well with how everything was. It felt I don't want to say right to have her as that particular character, because I feel like she could have fit any of these characters pretty well, but it was a smart choice, is something that I will say. It may not necessarily have been the right choice, because I feel like Hala could have fit any of the characters we're hearing here, male or female, fairly well, with just the way she decides to approach a rap. But it was a very solid choice, and she did a phenomenal job in presenting the I forget what her character name is right now, but like the empress that she had, she brought that arrogance that she normally brings to some of her other raps to this, and it worked very well. But now we've got Top here. Top Ham Hat. I keep want to say Ham Hat Tokyo. No, it's Ham Hat Kyo with Tokugawa, who, that's a name I mostly know because of the Tokugawa dynasty from like Rurouni Kenshin and some of the historical references around the Tokugawa dynasty. So like, this is about the man himself. Unfortunately, I didn't understand a word he said, so someone's gonna have to like put a translation down in the comments down below, because I really want to know what he said, because I was looking forward to learning a little bit about Tokugawa, and unfortunately, I didn't understand anything except for the word peace. So that doesn't help. I will say that this reminded me a lot of the way he approached his part in Rustage's Alucard rap, because I think that was the last time I heard Top on a Rustage song, was his Alucard rap. The way he came off with this was very fluent and very like forceful and very confident, and I felt that if I understood what he was saying, it would have made those bars feel so aggressive and impactful. Sadly, however, that's not how it worked. So I'm going to have to like probably see if I can get a translation or something, or maybe there's a translation in the comments or in the description of this video. But until then, all I can say about Top's performance was that he came at it with an aggressiveness that I felt like was befitting of a world leader like Tokugawa. And that much I can appreciate. But now we got Conquer Quest and Genghis Khan.
Carving pots and cartilage, carnage, wrapped incarnate. Trying to pull the rug, left wrapped in carpet. Fate to the jammy, out to ride. Leave a battlefield covered in crimson. Break necks while I build my kingdom. You claim that you wouldn't do the same, but
little bit of me in the go gung ho, cutthroat blood. So when you guts go, did you guts go jump out? Front row to your home, becoming a dust bowl, and it only gets worse if you run slow. Big strides, mum rolling and steps, bareheaded and rain, and there's a hole in your chest. I'm posing a threat to the whole of the West, and the rest of the world will still know me in death. Alfred.
Yeah, no, that was honestly pretty fair. I really thought that was I genuinely think that Connor could not have presented that any better. Genghis Khan, like Alexander the Great, conquered so much of the world. In fact, to this day, about 25% of the Asian population, and probably a little bit more than that, has some DNA of Genghis Khan in them. And I feel like that's an important thing to note, because that shows exactly how prolific Genghis Khan was as a conqueror and as like a world leader. Now, obviously, spreading your seeds so far and wide that it makes you like essentially put a carbon footprint on the world, both by removing so many people that because you've killed them, and by essentially breeding so many errors into existence that you now have so many descendants, even to this day, that are linked to you out of 7 billion people. That's impressive. Okay. That is an achievement that more likely than not, and probably shouldn't ever be replicated. So I felt like the way that Connor came about to attack the subject of Genghis Khan, it was very befitting of a conqueror of his stature. And I don't think that Connor could have done any better with that.
The grass, son of the wolf, wills power and grass. Show you I learned it, and merciful men make a kingdom from ashes and scour the dance. I was the fifth in line and the last one left, still poker face, and though they stack my deck. Goddamn life was a trial by death, but by God's good light, man, I passed that test. On the English monarch to have earned the grit, made the pagans vacate and learn their place. Showed a monster mercy and I turned their faith. Might have won the battle, but I burned the kicks. Met the Pope in Rome and God spoke, said my man Alfie's a top bloke. When it comes to the art of war, I'm ahead of my time like crossbows. See, I'm moving bardic, so damn charming, loyal man, I got those. King of the Anglo-Saxons, might have lost fights, but you'll never hear me lost hoes. Harold Gormson, Irish vaginas.
I was not expecting that cutoff and transition. I was expecting like something to punctuate the end of Alfred the Great, but instead it just immediately transitioned to the Dan Bull. I don't know much about Alfred the Great. I'd have to go back and read some historical context for as to why that transition was so abrupt. Maybe there's a reason why Dan Bull took over almost immediately afterwards, but in a way that it's felt like they were about to finish each other's sentences. But for now, as of what we have and what Schwabity brought to the table for this, there was a lot of like big dick energy is the best way I could describe this. The aura that he presented for Alfred the Great made it feel like he was on top of the world. And considering what I do know about Alfred, I feel like that was a little fitting. I feel like that you know, he changed the way that this rap is going to be perceived, I think. And I think that that's one of the big sticking points with this, and why Dan Bull suddenly bust into the scene, is because the way that Schwabity presented himself after Connor makes me feel like there's that, like, the rap is shifting a little bit. So I don't know if that's true, but that's the way it felt with the way it went straight from Alfred the Great into Dan Bull's character, who I will have to see if I can remember.
The Anglo-Saxons might have lost fights, but you'll never hear me lost. Harold Gormson.
Oh, right. Harold Bluetooth. That's why I don't remember. I never learned about Harold Bluetooth. So that's okay. So maybe there's a connection there.
Vaginas where I was born from. I'm well respected in the runic who's who.
Hold on, what did he say?
Harold Gormson, Irish vaginas where I was born from.
That was a wild line. What?
I'm well respected in the runic who's who. If you're connected, you can call me Bluetooth. I'm made it insane and invading and raiding. Rearranging the brains of the pagan and raining. The whole he's on
man for all seasons, whether you're Norwegian or even more Old Zealand. A cold heathens in cold Zealand, your boy Harold Heathen brought peace to the whole region. Oh Jesus, you reckon you're bringing the heavy bars on hard lines? You want yours, I took a stone and carved mine.
Hold on.
Inscribe it in wound. Your life is in wound.
Dan had a... That was an interesting rhyme scheme that he chose for Harold Bluetooth. The connections between, obviously, the Bluetooth devices, that was actually a really cool bar to throw in there. A little obvious, but still, I like the way he presented it. The flow for his rap was odd at a certain point, but at the same time, it didn't feel like it was totally out of place. I was afraid he was going to do what I refer to as like vocal stumbling, which is essentially where you get off beat and then you have trouble trying to catch back up and get yourself back on beat. It happens a lot with some of the raps, whether it's intentional or not. I always find it to be very distracting, and I was kind of afraid that Dan Bull, who is a master of his craft, was about to do that, but he didn't. It was actually a fully intentional, like, reinvention of the rap in that specific section, which then deviated back slightly to what it was before, as well as evolved from it in the next section, right before it switched over to Charlemagne, who is one of the world leaders I know the most about, and Stipendium. So the way that Dan decided to go about his section felt a little odd at first, but at the same time, it made sense, especially once everything wrapped up. I still am not 100% certain about why it cut into Alfred the Great's part, why he just like kind of burst through the door and took over, but that might be something that I'll have to investigate at a later date.
In a Charlemagne, taking over your homeland, Charlemagne. He's got Bavaria, Saxony, part of Spain, and nobody's ever walked that path again. And you could hardly name a place, a nation state, ungraced for the great that Charles became. Left the path that claimed to kickstart the art from the heart of Arca like a von Moraine. Brought systems into existence, Missy, Dominici, for instance. Schmoozed the Pope and picked up the Christians. There ain't no resisting my infant. Pilgrims flock when I bid them go. Plus I got that holy Roman diplomacy. God knows when I grip that rose. So they first Mr. Worldwide cuts and globally.
Considering the fact that I've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed, I'm currently playing Assassin's Creed 3 at the moment. I've been burning through the games in release order, just because as I was building my Assassin's Creed Magic the Gathering deck, it just kind of like came to me that maybe I should try that. Maybe I should try playing the games and learning through the games' fictional history about some of these characters. There isn't much about Charlemagne on that. However, I do know certain tidbits about Charlemagne alongside some of his history. So I am kind of sort of disappointed that Stipendium didn't reference the creation of Durandal and Cortana, the two of the swords of the paladins of Charlemagne, if I remember correctly, in his rap. Or if he did, I completely missed it. But I'm pretty sure I would have recognized those names if he had said them. People who know Halo and Marathon would recognize those names immediately, because Durandal is one of the AIs from Marathon, and Cortana obviously is from Halo. So I kind of sort of wish that they had made a reference to that in the rap, because I felt like it would have fit. But especially if it was just like a snide little remark about like people were running marathons to catch their halos or something like that. I feel like that might have been an interesting bar to say, but they, at the end of the day, managed to cover Charlemagne in such a way that I wouldn't mind having Stipendium just make a Charlemagne rap dressed up as Charlemagne, just doing one of their normal like real life music videos and expanding on what they started on here. I feel like that actually would be kind of fun to see, but I know Stoops isn't necessarily in that type of I guess like not in that realm of nerdcore. doing like the historical stuff. That's more of a Rustage thing. So maybe Rustage will pick up on some of these characters. Who knows? But I don't know. I would like to hear a little bit more of a rap about Charlemagne, because he's a very prolific character in history, and one of the few world leaders that I studied extensively just because of my overall fascination with how he came to power and the things he did while in it.
होता क्या है शासक होती क्या है इज्जत होती क्या है ताकत होता क्या है सुनने से शुरू का वो बात होता क्या है चक्रवर्ती सम्राट मैंने यहाँ नया साम्राज्य बनाया धननन का पूरा कहर मिटाया मैंने रखी नींव उस साम्राज्य की जिसने अखंड भारत को पाया शीश झुका बस गुरु के ही आगे मानी मैंने सदा यहाँ गुरु की बातें युद्ध कला से राजनीति तक ज्ञान ग्रहण किया गुरु के ही द्वारे जानू पूरा शाम दाम दंड भेद पाओ पूरी भूमि रख तू जहाँ पैर बचेगा ना जोर रखेगा मुझसे बैर बना नहीं चंद्रगुप्त जैसे शेर.
Okay. Again, just like with Top's part with Tokugawa, I didn't understand a word that was being said by Deeks. So that's unfortunate, because I can only really go off of like context in referencing characters that I don't know. And since I didn't know the character whose name is, the pronunciation of the name is going to be difficult for me, so I'm not going to even try. And I couldn't understand what the bars were. Unfortunately, I can't really say anything about it. And everything about the tone of the bars was very even. So I can't really judge about that, because everything was very even and flowed very, very simply. There was no inflection really anywhere to boast excitement or dominance or anything like that. So all I can really say is that, like, based on the way the rap went, it felt like it was a pretty good structured rap. But when it comes to like the translation, I have no idea. And again, I didn't see any translation on the screen, so it feels a little unfortunate that I'm missing out on a couple of these parts, but there's not much I can do about that.
Pesos, don't ever mention me with Musk or Bezos, some black as they sold, paid a straight gold.
Oh, I think that line was also referenced, the Mesos, what do you call it, the Bezos and what was it, Musk and Bezos line. I think that was referenced in the epic rap battle history featuring Mansa Musa, or what was it, Mansa Musa, excuse me. Mansa Musa. That is not the name. That is, I think, the name of Sephiroth's sword. Mansa Musa. I want to say that was actually, like I said, a bar that was used in the epic rap battle of history with Mansa Musa. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like it was. But I mean, it's still an accurate line, so like it's not like he's stealing it from them.
Don't ever mention me with Musk or Bezos, some black as they sold, paid a straight gold and coverage trade goals we use today. So disrespect, I'm only king, and check is not a thing. I boom me kind of means like boom, I bada bing, or cause inflation by giving to the poor too many donations. Man to move to the mass producer, cash influence, if a path to do stuff big in architecture. Who need to protect us? Just check the neck for necklace collector. Assalamu alaikum, rock from my location, 60,000 deep, and nobody can take us. Mecca, what I pray to Muslim too. Without me, there would be no Timbuktu. It's crazy if you ain't heard of me. I'm responsible for many universities. So say what you want, ain't no burning me when I provided too many people's first degree. I love this.
That was a real fire way of ending that. Like, it's crazy that if you have never heard of me, I am guilty of that, because I provided many people's universities, which is why you can't be burning me, because I got them their first degrees. Like that whole context right there that was a wild ending to that. Also, as I was thinking about it, I don't remember if Mansa Musa was the one in the epic battle of history, but I'm almost positive that same bar between Bezos and Musk was still used for that character. I want to say that the character I'm thinking of that was in the ERB was done by Screwface Gene, or Jean, or whatever his name is. But I don't remember for sure. Let me try to verify that real quick. Oh yeah, Mansa Musa. Okay, yeah. It was Jeff Bezos versus Mansa Musa. Okay, so yeah, no, that bar was definitely like, I'm not sure if it was like a reference to the ERB, but it definitely was featured in there at some point, or something similar to it. And I feel like that's a connection that gets thrown around for Mansa Musa a lot, is the connection between him and his wealth and Bezos and Musk. I feel like those are very relevant and oftentimes cited connections between those three.
The RB scatter, Shaka, toe tiger, the best village ransacker, Zulu banner, short spit stabber, coming like Caesar but blacker. Who's gonna make a Zulu nation? Make a tribe train like a choo-choo station. In the war, recognize who you facing. Pin your crew down like a voodoo patient. Beetle with no sweat. Turning people to peaceful and you're dead. Your beat call me lethal when you're set to be regal and lethal when I step. I'm an African warrior. Hit your rank with the flank with the loins stay taut. Grab the bull by the horns and you'll still get one
That was a nice way of ending that. Xiao Dao, I think, was the best person to be able to get on the Shaka Zulu bar, mainly because Xiao Dao has such an aggressive presentation for this. And I felt that that was an important thing that needed to have for Shaka Zulu, because Shaka Zulu was one of the greatest warrior kings of Africa. And it was going to take somebody with that level of energy. There are only two that I could think of off the top of my head that could have presented that level of energy properly. And that was either Xiao Dao or DPS. And of those two, I think Xiao was the better choice, because he brings in energy all the time, whereas DPS oftentimes will play around a little bit. He brings the energy sometimes, but he also plays around a bit. And I felt that Xiao was probably the better option for that, because Xiao is, to steal a line from Jacob Fatu from the WWE, all gas and no brakes when it comes to the energy and the aggressiveness he sometimes injects into his rap. And so of them, yeah, that was the perfect choice for Shaka Zulu.
So fuck your feelings, I'm reaching out. Crushing on me, they'll pay my tax. I'll drape it on me, I made my stack. Don't say it sorry, they take that back. You standing in the presence of a God. I can see the crack in your facade. Standing at the world, I'm at the top. Add another milli to the car. My world's magnificent.
Hold on, I need to see if there's a description in here that tells you who is playing what. There probably is. Oh, Suleiman, that's right. Suleiman the Magnificent, which is a perfect name for exactly what we heard, because Maguire, oh my God, was that magnificent. That is the proper adjective for that, for describing exactly what he just did. The arrogance that he carried in this, the self-assurance that he carried in that section, that was on another level, and it fit so well with someone who is a freaking sultan. That was just wow. I could listen to that specific part on repeat all day. McGuire has the ability of really putting those inflections into his raps, and they really work for him. And that worked really well. But now we've got Catherine the Great by Lex Bratcher. So let's learn a little bit about Catherine.
Infants or cowards, they bowed at my feet. Political power was out of my reach until this was shouted to crown me beneath. I'm the queen that we're blessed with the charge. Had a crown as my spouse until death did us part. I expanded the West and embarked, bringing culture and arts. New approaches to start, new roads to be paved, new expansions to mar, new serfs to be free, new plans to be sparked. Promote education and open the hearts of the openly spoken church. Global remarks, reform, avocation, our modern advancement, diplomacy, victory, enhancements, the legacy to be remembered for ages. Catherine the Great, really Catherine the Greatest.
Again, the arrogance for that was like on point. The being able to like really highlight the achievements of the person in question without having to reference too many of those achievements, but basically just being like, yeah, what I did was a big enough deal that it changed the world. I'm sure that a lot of these world leaders ended up producing more for the world than they're capable of condensing into a very short segment of a rap cipher. You can't really like turn an entire 30-page Wikipedia article into 8 bars without leaving some stuff out. But what they managed to capture, or what they managed to leave out, oftentimes has so far been captured in the presentation. Like, you may not know exactly why they're great, but you know that they're great enough to have changed the world and be featured on something like this among all these other world leaders. And I liked how very little was said about Catherine's achievements, but what was said was brought in a way that was capable of carrying that weight and resonance to be like, yeah, no, she's a bad bitch and you better know it.
Could you shut up for a millisecond? It's Philip II. Let me set the record straight. King of Spain, England, Netherlands, and some other lands. I can remember that many names. I changed the game. They never forget. My reign so great. No one's ever met a single domain so lit. Cause here the sun never sets, okay? Siempre que me siento en mi trono me centro. Por eso volví capital a Madrid. Felipe don't need goes right in his sheet. I sign every chance that I send to the streets. Girl, are you feeling filled? You could be my queen. Raise my Philippines. Si la gota me agota and I'm really ill. Bury me wearing this secret.
I liked how Keyblade was able to, like, again, bring that arrogance. And because of the fact that Philip the Great, I think, was French, like, French already have a little bit of extra arrogant attitudes about them when it comes to their like, at least their historical leaders are oftentimes presented as such. And so I like how Keyblade was able to capture that for Philip. That felt like I was listening to someone on, like, the Tudors or something like that, rapping about the character that they play. I felt that was a very, like, egotistical way of presenting it, and it felt right for someone that ruled over France. I'm fairly certain that that Philip the Great or Philip II or whatever his name is, I'm fairly certain that he was a king of France. So I felt that was fairly certain. See, I'm looking up on Google. I'm learning things as we're going. That's Philip II. Okay. Oh, Spain. Excuse me, Spain. Oh, that makes it even more arrogant. If it's not France, it's Spain. Because, my God, like, the Spanish conquistadors kind of, like ran through Central and South America with an iron fist alongside a variety of different locations. Like, okay, yeah, no, that makes it even more arrogant. And egotistical, and makes the rap even better. I should have picked up on that, because some of that did sound like Spanish or not French, and I don't know why it just went over my head that it wasn't French, that it was Spanish. But I don't speak Spanish, so I don't know. I'm listening to the vibes, not so much the lyrics sometimes.
La luz del sol, una palabra, revolución, estilo nahual, instinto animal, cartón y detener citrón, dejando la vara tan alta como los muros se saltan. Muerte, para que encontrarme tante, si te pican mis acciones, sácate chile del diente, solamente el tiempo puede detener, más si soy mala buena depende de quién la cuente. Nunca he sido cortés de españoles, pero clara es mi fe, viva mi imperio que reúnes. The heavenly gifts as well.
I wanted to say that was Portuguese, not Spanish. It's Moctezuma. I feel like that must have been like Portuguese or some other South American deviation, excuse me, not deviant, deviation of Spanish. I'm not 100% sure. Unfortunately, like I know the name Moctezuma, but I have no, like, historical knowledge of them. Or what I do have is very little. So sadly, another one. That's the third one that I did not understand, so I can't really give much about it other than the air that was being presented to us in the rap. And again, there was a decent amount of arrogance there, but I also felt like if I could understand it, it would have made a bigger impact.
Known was if he's my prince. I got a void and a pin through the mid and heavy clips. I deep in Egyptians, while wives like Rosetta Stone, hard to read but thick as a beam. Country, I knocked attacks and mastery, not good bad shit. Class 1 class at these weak stats are natural. Exit crunch from popes of royals, gods and strats from elephant. I'm a psychopath. My folks by my side. Mark, for my next snatch of left right. George. As it would appear, check attention, beyond my peers and another tip. Punri, I'm willing to move a tear. Just a common deal if you'd be sleeping off my career. I keep it short, I'm a historical giant. Under my focus.
Wow, okay. Louverture with Napoleon. Holy crap. That was aggressive. I don't know what I was exactly expecting, but I was not expecting that. Like, most of the time when I hear Louverture, he's pretty low key, you know? He doesn't really have the aggressiveness in his voice. Every once in a while, there have been a few things. I think like he did a Jinx rap that had a decent amount of aggressiveness in it, but for the most part, he's usually pretty mellow. So I was not expecting that. Wow. But now we've got Dripstick as George Washington. And this is going to be probably, I feel like, the swaggiest of the world leaders, simply because of how not so like, what's the word? Chill George Washington actually was. People think George Washington was a very composed man, but he was prone to rather violent fits of rage at certain points. And so it's pretty well documented that like he's not the chillest man ever, despite what some people would want you to believe. So I'm kind of curious as to how he's going to be portrayed here.
What is the son to a founding father? Lead teams whoop feet and I couldn't sleep. And you were my child to me so I wouldn't speak. And when I do a true beast, what's some more than teeth? Okay, toast boy, they didn't give me a place. I surveyed land and now I'm off of the map. Delegation, how I'm rocking the stages. With nasty rains like intolerable acts. Grow up in a tug out since past time. I'm a raw while on the field here at shot spot. Delaware River, the flow, you couldn't cross time. And even as a little child, I cannot lie. Christmas package for the enemy, no gift to rapping. Just leave them in the cold, give them frostbite. Cherry tree swing, hot shot grind. Before Porsche, high speed horsepower like a Mach 5. Shots ringing if you trying to bust. Got cannons punch you with the damage and blow. Real precedent for all the future presidents. Knockout win, unanimous votes. Like Mount Rushmore, they froze in the face. Rolling Stone, and you standing there cold. Immortalized, I am the man in the mold. Even when I die, I can't abandon my home.
Yeah. The aggressiveness for George Washington, I fully expected. The rather pointed decision to do that and do what they like, how they carried on, how Dripstick decided to carry on with how prolific and assertive George Washington was. That fit perfectly. I fully expected that. I guess that last part, like, it was probably the second best of the raps that we heard here. I would say the top three for me in order was going to be Rustage with Caesar, Dripstick with George Washington, and Shaudo as Shaka Zulu. I think those are my three favorites. With Charlemagne by Stipendium being a very close fourth place. But I think in the top three, it's probably going to be Caesar, George Washington, and Shaka Zulu. And I feel like those are fair choices, honestly, because I feel like those are the three that presented the characters the best with the proper energy to go about with them. But anyway, this has been going on for almost an hour, so if you're still here, thank you. I want to hear what your favorite in the comments below are. I want you to tell me which one of these characters was best presented, and if you have any translations for the three that I did not understand, 3.5 because of the Korean segments, then please put them down below, because I would love to learn about like what those parts were like. But in the meantime, thank you for joining me. I am Mark Alpha 12, and I will see you in the next video.